Okay, I'll let you take the Lord's Prayer when we do it. But you can read it in your language and the way you like to read it.
Okay, or Christine, would you like to do it?
Sure, just let's bring it up. Give me a couple of secs. Yeah.
It's on Christine's PowerPoint.
Just a sec. Give me some warning, Warren.
Well, no, Grace normally always has it there. So if she can't, I'll just do it in my own language. If someone doesn't have it, I'll just do what I can.
Yeah, I've got it up now.
Okay.
Next Sunday, okay?
Okay. Do you want me to read it now?
Yep.
Sure.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
From me comes the breath of life, which fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration. May my light be experienced in my utmost holiest. My heavenly domain approaches. Let my will come true in the universe where all vibrates, just as on earth that is material and dense. I draw out wisdom for my daily need. I am unconditional love. All superficial things shall be transformed in unconditional love. I'm free from all of those things which keep me from my true purpose. From me comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song which beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Sealed in trust, faith, and truth, and I confirm with my entire being. Amen.
Amen. Okay. So let's just start with a quote from Neville Goddard. The great secret of success is to focus our attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. And it's a saying that if you actually were able to do that, you could literally manifest just about anything that you wanted. The question is, how easy is it to do in the real world? So I started, and as I normally like to do, I started with my I Ching reading. And the question is, what is important for this group to hear today? So this is what I got. So restrictions was the one that showed up today, which is this one here. So we'll go and have a look when the changing line was number 6. So let's just go ahead and have a look at hexagram 60 using the better commentary and read what this actually says. So this hexagram is generally warning you about putting really too tight restrictions on yourself. So it's encouraging, although it's saying restraint and boundaries are important, it's also very much about I think what this word says here is pretty accurate. When discipline gets to the point of inflicting suffering on yourself, it brings on danger even when there is no danger. So this is, for whatever reason, saying right now to be mindful about enjoying life and not letting go and not overly restricting yourself. So again, it comes back to this whole idea of balance, and it's got it here. The superior man basically comes up with a series of rules and regulations for their life. So it seems to be encouraging us as a group right now to have some order and have some restrictions on our life, but which we set up. So a set of rules or guidelines, but not to overly do it. Just to really enjoy life, let go and relax and see life for what it is, an experience. That's been my biggest lesson I've been learning lately. Just to do exactly that. So when you go down to the 6th one here, this highlights it. And 6, of course, is a number of man or material. So this is warning about strict regulations which might seem spiritual, but will bring evil. And there's a scripture in Galatians which talks about this. Don't let yourself kind of be put into bondage, it says in the Bible, by putting too many laws or restrictions upon yourself. That's what Paul says in Galatians. He says, that's not what Christ or spirituality is meant to be about. It's meant to bring liberty. And then there's other scriptures that say, don't let liberty become an opportunity to go excessive with pleasure, into debauchery. So it's warning you against both, but particularly today, the warning is about going the other extreme, about being too restrictive. So it does definitely tell us right now just to have fun and enjoy life. And that's very much in alignment with what Grace got this morning. It's in alignment with what I've been getting, and like really been just getting out there just to have fun and just do the things I really, really enjoy doing. So, and what's called a secondary hexagram is 61, which is actually kind of underpinning this is living your inner truth. So even if your inner truth might seem frivolous, it might seem silly, it might seem almost to the point of God, I mean, it's guilt, it's saying just follow your inner truth. Now, it starts by saying it moves even pigs and fishes. Now, what this basically means is even obstinate, stubborn people who basically won't listen to wisdom, this is basically what it means. So when you're living by your inner truth, even stubborn, obstinate people or obstinate events in your life, which kind of will follow on from the power of awareness today, and then you couldn't get a better thing if you tried. There will be advantage in crossing the great stream. That is the I Ching's biggest green light to go forward with your plans and that. So it's really telling you to go out and try new things and have fun. And for me, of course, it's one of the reasons I did pole dancing. It's one of the reasons I did many other things. Right now, I'm wanting to explore all kinds of things, you know, in my life, which go against so much of my teachings and what I used to think. And I'm actually realizing it's very much what I like to do. So this is really encouraging. And then it goes on to say this. In other words, don't be too quick to cut things off in your life and think these aren't good for me. So this is an interesting time. It's actually encouraging us to have fun and not be too quick to cut things out of our life and be too harsh. So very different to what we often get. So anyway, that's the I Ching for today. So encouraging and really just saying, get out there, enjoy life. So on that note, what we'll do now is let's have a good look at the next ones here now. So okay, let's have a look now. So this is what we spoke on last time, was on feeling is the secret, and going into that one. So that was what we spoke on last time, was the feeling is the secret. Power of the unconscious mind, things like that. So very much talking about that. So we talked about how by living your life by your feeling, by your sense, by your connection and things like that, and really enjoying all that, and just basically following the sense of feeling and mastering your state of mind. So we covered 4 distinct principles in feeling is the secret. We discussed the subconscious not knowing the difference between what's true and what's nil. That was the first law. So really you can make up shit in your mind. And if you convince yourself, it will manifest. So whether that's in terms of relationships, in terms of money, in terms of health or whatever. I mean, even the other day, I was starting to not feel that well. And I remember saying to myself, you know what? I'm actually fine. I'll just recover naturally quickly anyway. I don't even need to think about it. And I thought, whereas normally I'd have restrictive rules. Okay, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have vitamin C. I'm not going to eat this. And I just thought, nah, I feel like some chips, so I'll just eat them. So I did. And it was really, and especially for Grace and people who know me, that's for me to do, that's crazy. I just said, nah, I feel like doing it. So I did. And noticed that I felt great afterwards. I actually felt better the next day and things like that. I also noticed that my unconscious was telling me to do less dancing and less physical stuff for the moment and just go for a swim. And I was like, take it easy. And I realized that my body just feels like it needs a lot of integration. It's going through a lot of changes. That showed up when I saw Ross Martin, my homeopath. So I was like, okay. So it's just trusting yourself to do it. I remember at one stage I was stretching constantly to get my groin more flexible. And then I just went through a period when I thought, I just don't feel like doing it. But I trust my body will start to release naturally and I'll get more flexible naturally and I'll go that way. And I've actually did a lot less stretching the last 6 weeks than I've done before. And when I was checking the other day, I've actually got more flexible. So it doesn't know the difference. When we talked about the power of sleep and how that can do things, I I've been staying up quite late lately, and I just felt last night I needed to go to bed very early and have deep sleep, and I did. And it felt really, really good. And I noticed that things shifted. The third principle we talked was about the power of prayer, knowing that your prayers are already answered. And Goddard says that you would feel yourself into the situation, the answered prayer, and live upon conviction. So I started feeling and imagining myself as my prayer answered and living on conviction. And of course, this followed on directly from what Jesus said to his disciples, that you can actually move mountains if you believe. And finally, was assuming the feeling of your wish fulfilled and noticing where it took you. So it's really what that was about, and really, and not by might, in other words, not by forcing things to happen, but by my spirit. And this has been my big lesson. I saw a kinesiologist 2 weeks ago, and it showed up how much I was forcing my inner feminine through my masculine, my inner masculine, which means my mental conscious mind that was very strong. In fact, he even said to me, you've got an incredibly strong mind and you've had success based on that. Now's the time to let your feminine manifest your success. And that's what I've been led to do. And I've been noticing already a much more difference and overall sense of happiness and peace in my life. So that leads me on to teaching on the power of awareness. Really one of Neville Goddard's greatest books of all. So he makes it very clear that progress comes from those who don't take the accepted view, nor do they accept the world as it is around them. The reason that we were able to see changes in the whole COVID period, like amazing changes really, where we saw governments change mandates and change laws and do all kinds of amazing stuff, was simply because we believed we could do it. And as Raymond Grace once said, he said, everyone else questions if they can do it, I just don't see why I can't. That's the big difference. I remember speaking to a trader once who'd hardly ever lost money in his life, even when he was a novice. And he said to me, I should have lost money because I really didn't know what I was doing, but I just always assumed I'd make money from doing it. It never crossed my mind that I wouldn't. And I thought, so interesting, because I certainly have not found that state of mind quite so straightforward. And that's a big one that I'm planning on, that I'm working on. So he just said, I just always assumed that I could. So the other one that Neville Goddard says is don't try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. This is probably one of the hardest lessons to learn as a human being, in my opinion. We are with someone in our life and think we have to change this situation. You might have a partner who's actually quite aggressive with you, for example, or someone who's quite a certain way. And yet Luann Ward, who runs Elite Matchmaking in Perth, a good friend of mine, she made a powerful comment, and she's done many of John D. Martini's. She said, whoever is your partner in your life right now is the perfect person for you. In every way, whether it's the flaws, the good things, everything. She said, people are too quick to change relationships without learning the lessons that the partner is there to teach them. And she said, sure, sometimes relationships do come to an end because you've learned your lessons, but many a time we never complete our lesson. We move on only to experience the same thing with someone else. So, for example, and this has been a big lesson for me even lately. I've been seeing a girl from overseas, from Russia, who is like, when I say very feminine, I mean very, 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 very feminine, like the full extremes of the feminine emotions and everything. And for me, applying all this, I just decided early on, I wouldn't try and change her. No matter how crazy she was, I will just go with whatever insanity would happen, which has been quite a profound journey for me. And because as I've been doing that, I've started to accept a lot more about the insanity and the craziness within myself. But then noticing that I changed my perception and who I am and how I see myself, it's incredible because to see I've seen her change already, start to shift and change in her beliefs and things like that, and start to shift things. And any single thing you don't like a good example for me with her, applying this thing here. One of my frustrations was how very rigid she was in her beliefs around health, whereas I thought, well, I'm not like that. I'm very open-minded. And then I started to think, well, she's in my life, so maybe that's not actually true. Maybe I am more rigid. And of course, one of my rigid things is realizing certain beliefs around my eating, around my stretching, around my routines, around my sleep patterns, around everything. So I've been letting all that dissolve and going, let's just be open to different things, different lessons. Even to the point of thinking maybe occasionally having a pharmaceutical, why not? Something which I haven't done for years. If that feels the right way to go, why not allow myself to do it? Because I was her opposite polar extreme, very much about never touch pharmaceuticals, and thought, well, what if I change that view? I still remember, and Grace would remember this with a smile, where Sammy, who was absolutely rigid on this, like would never touch pharmaceuticals, kept well away from them. Her last 17 days of her life, when she was on life support, there she was getting pumped full of so many drugs in the hospital. Grace and I were sitting there, and despite the sadness we were feeling, we couldn't help but laugh at times and say, goodness me, what a universal balancing and collapse. How horrified would she be right now, seeing what's happening to her body, you know? And I remember when I had a call with John D. Martini, him laughing and saying, sounds like the universe was being very kind to her and collapsing her illusions while she's in life support to make it a bit easier for her. And I said, yeah, I think so too. So the biggest lesson here is change your conception of yourself and you'll change the world in which you live. As soon as you've got extremes in any area of your life, and that was the whole I Ching message, you want to balance it. For me, that's been my thing. I became so extreme because of my own experiences where my health fixed up from going one particular way that I've realized that I became too imbalanced the other way. So now I'm letting go and being a bit more open to other alternatives about things. I'm realizing that as well with relationships. I was so infatuated with the idea, even though I hit it well, of having this perfect soulmate kind of intimate connection. Realizing, well, maybe sometimes a very base, very non-intimate connection can serve you as well for a time. So don't try and change people. If you're attracting the people in your life and you're in your life consistently, they're trying to tell you something and they're trying to show you something. So as you revalue yourself and who you are and what you believe, they'll confirm the change. So I think I could look at these quotes all day. So accepting the world as it is. So we don't just accept what we see around us. And we remember this, you know, that you're already, you know, so you already are that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you don't see it. That is why one thing that John D. Martini teaches, and Neville Goddard teaches, if you, for example, think someone's amazing or a certain kind of person is amazing, is because you actually are too. You're just infatuated with that in them because you're believing you're not that person. I was always absolutely admired great spiritual healers and teachers until I realized I was one myself. I used to hugely admire people who were strong and militant in business until I realized I had that too. I was just denying my own power. And I also had a lot of, admiration for strippers. You know, I thought, wow, they're so strong on the pole and they're so sexy, and I like how they got their self-worth. When I realized I was one too. And the thing is, whatever it is you're looking at doing, for me, I noticed, for example, I told this to my son Edward. I said, I actually admire you a lot. I said, you're very certain who you are, Ed. I said, you're a very disciplined guy. You're very certain in who you are. And I can see you have an ability to emotionally disconnect and move on when you need to be. And then of course, and he's very disciplined with his trading as well. And of course, so I started to say to myself, well, if I'm infatuated with him for being such a good trader and so disciplined and able to emotionally disengage really easy when he needs to, I've got that same ability too. So you're already that. So this is really about the power of awareness. And so Neville Goddard's book, The Power of Awareness, is actually a much longer book than Feeling is a Secret. And he's got a number of chapters. So really, I'm just exploring the very early chapters in this one. I'm actually going to cover this over at least 2 parts, maybe more. So the I am is the first thing. So this is one of the most powerful things. And it's one of the things that actually pissed off the religious leaders of the day more than almost anything else that Jesus did. So what he says in the book of Exodus, which Neville Goddard quotes from. But Moses said to God, if I came to the Israelites and I say to them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they ask you, what is his name? What shall I say to them? Now, Moses said that because the Egyptians at that time had all kinds of different gods they worshipped. They had Isis, they had this one, they had Horus. They had all these different gods and entities and beings that they worshipped and got energy from and astrological. God said, no, I'm different. I'm not any of that shit. I am who I am. In other words, I am everything. I am the creator. I am the one. Don't get caught up with the many and link me in with one of the many that the Egyptians are doing. I'm not that one. They'll know who I am as soon as I tell them that. Because they know behind their many, there is a one. And I'm that one. That's who I am. I am who I am. I am everything. I'm all these beings. I'm Isis, I'm Horus, I'm Yeshua, I'm Krishna, I'm Warren, I'm Grace, I'm Christine, I'm everyone. And that's who sent me to you. I'm no past, I'm no present, I'm no future. I'm just all this. I'm no beginning and there's no end. I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I'm everything. I'm the whole fucking lot, man. That's basically what God spoke to Moses. And so when Moses went to Pharaoh and went to Egyptians to speak out for deliverance, they were like, oh, this guy's a badass. This is why Jesus was not very popular when he was around with religious leaders. Because it says, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. Now keep in mind, if you're thinking in a linear progression, past, present, future, Abraham was about 2,000 years before Christ, even more. Around about 2000 actually. So the Israelites go to him, well, hang on a sec, bro. You're not even 50 years old. You're like in your 30s. And you're saying you've actually seen Abraham? In other words, they went straight into a linear thing. I mean, all Jesus said to them, Yeshua says, was verily, verily, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am. So in other words, he killed the linear past and he immediately identified, and pretty much so they knew straight away because they knew this scripture. So basically he said, I'm this one. This is me. I'm Exodus 3:14 guy. That's who I am, or girl. I am. So at that point, it says they immediately went to kill him for blasphemy. But interestingly, he hid himself and went out the temple. In other words, going through the midst of them. In other words, he went invisible, moving the energy and disappeared. If you actually read in mystery schools, that's what they taught. When you actually read that, in other words, they went to kill him. He just moved straight through them. Whether he became invisible, whether he just became energy, or whether this authority in his face made him just back off and not touch him. There's different schools of thought believing different things, but the fact was, he had a whole group of people ready to kill him and he just walked straight past them as if no one could get near him. So Neville Goddard then goes further. So how do we apply this to us? We go back to what Einstein said, who pretty much said that everything basically is consciousness. And that's all it is. And pretty much, and in quantum physics now, there's no past, no future. Everything is always the now. That's what remote viewing teaches as well. So this is what Goddard says in his book, The Power of Awareness. He says, I am is the self-definition of the absolute, the foundation of all. Be still, know that I am God. In other words, no need to try and prove it, no need to argue it. I am God. I am is a feeling of permanent awareness. I can never forget that I am. So he goes on to say various things. That's why you're told, for example, in the scripture in Joel, let the weak man say, I am strong. Let the fearful-hearted, as Isaiah says, say, I am strong, I am bold, I will not fear anyone. What can man do to me? That's why David could say in the Psalms, I will not fear, what can man do to me? That was why during COVID, I was constantly saying that to myself, no matter what was happening. Even the other day, I remember I was going for a walk and I saw these guys, and I remember getting a bit nervous because they were bigger guys that were kind of following me a bit. And I thought, I will not fear, what can man do to me? And I just kept going. Next minute, they looked at me, they kind of smiled and they just went off. And I remember one time when there was an Aboriginal man down at the foreshore in South Beach in Fremantle, being quite violently abusive and aggressive at everyone there a couple of years ago. And you can see people were quite nervous. He's running around yelling at them. It was Australia Day, that Invasion Day. I just decided, and I said that in my heart, I am, what can man do to me? And I smiled at him as I went, and he looked at me and he goes, hey, bro. And he started yelling at me, but more as his ally. Like, can you believe these people? You know, look at them all. They came in, they invade our country, they just do this, they had this attitude, you know, and this, I mean, you know what I mean, bro? And I said, yeah, I do, man. And he goes, yeah, man. And then he starts abusing everyone again. And it was quite funny. You could see, as soon as he saw me, he spoke to me like he was his friend. But it's because in my heart, he was my friend. I had a situation recently where someone I know who I regard very highly, I found out had a big issue with me. They told me. I remember my kid said to me, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "What do you mean? I don't have an issue with this person." They said, "Yeah, you're going to sort it with them." I said, "Well, I've got nothing to sort with them. I still don't have an issue with them." So I said, if they've got one with me, they're welcome to come and sort it with me, but I don't have an issue with them. And then about a week later, I bumped into them in the market. And you could see their awkwardness, and it was incredibly funny. But as I was approaching them, my son was with me, goes, "Oh, God, what are you going to do?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm going to go say hi and give him a hug." And I did. And you could see, and they chatted to me, and they were very awkward. And because I said, I still don't have an issue with them. And I don't know why I think, and I see no reason why I should start creating an issue in my head just because I now know they've got an issue with me. I said, no reason for both of us to basically have an issue with each other. I'll just keep in my thing, and eventually she's going to have to sort it or run away from me as fast as she can. And it was very, very funny. Yesterday I was at the Fremantle Markets, and one of our favourite entertainers, Bruce, who William knows how good Bruce's jokes are. One of the things at the end when Bruce was saying about giving money, donating to his street performance, and he goes, "So if you enjoyed my show, come and give me money. Put a note in there." He said, "If you didn't enjoy my show, still come up and put money. There's no reason why both of us should leave disappointed." And I remember laughing. He gets so good. So yeah, he said, "Come and give me money, even if you didn't like the show. There's no reason for two people to be disappointed." So it's been my whole challenge to myself to just stay in my own consciousness, because William and Grace both know especially how much I would tend to take on other people's energies. For me, a big turning point, I can thank Christine Evans for this, because Christine made a comment some weeks ago where she said, "You know how we all take on," I can't remember what she said exactly, but she said about how we take on people's energies. And she goes, "Does Raymond actually do that? Because I don't think he actually does he?" And I said, "No, no, he doesn't actually. I said, I once asked him, you must feel all the energies of the planet and people." He goes, "Well, not really." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Well, it's like I observe it." But he said, "It's not my stuff. I don't take it on. I just keep myself clean." He goes, "But yeah, I see other people have got it." And when Christine said that, it reminded me, and I go, okay, well, me taking on people's energy is really not necessary. So that was why I had my first test with that particular person who had an issue with me. And I thought, well, I don't have an issue with them. And I still don't have an issue with them. So, and then I subsequently found out that they've had a lot of issues with a lot of other people in similar situations. So I was like, yeah, that's just obviously their own consciousness journey they've got to work out. So when you know that consciousness is the one and only reality, whether it's good, bad, poor, indifferent, rich, poor, whatever, you're free from the tyranny of outside causes, free from the belief and delusion that there are things outside of your own mind and reality that can actually affect and change your life. That's so powerful. I'm actually going to say that one again. When you know that consciousness is the only reality, conceiving itself to be good, bad, or indifferent, and you can only label it whichever way you choose to, you're free from the tyranny and the delusion of the belief that there are causes outside of your own mind that can change or affect your life. Whether it's the government, whether it's a partner, whether it's a financial situation, nothing. So it's abundantly clear there's only one I am. That's why God said, "I, the Lord, am one." And the I am is infinite as a you. The second chapter is basically called consciousness. And he says, only when you change your consciousness can you actually change your conception of yourself. And because the consciousness is the one and only reality and the first and only substance of life. So consciousness, you must turn to, is the only foundation on which life can be explained. If we accept the idea of a first cause, it would follow that the evolution of that cause would never result in anything foreign to itself. Einstein says it really well. No problem can ever be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. I think that is an absolute ripper. No thing can ever be solved by that. Nothing whatsoever. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it in the first place. Einstein then also said something else. A human being is part of the whole called by us universe, experiencing themselves, his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This one particularly blew my mind. So in other words, and now scientists have actually discovered that every atom in every cell of my body and what you see here contains the entire universe. That's a scientific thing. That's not a spiritual teaching, even though it is. It's a scientific thing. So so what Einstein is saying here, which is extraordinary, is that everything we're living in the world is actually our delusion of what we believe to be real. Very much what the Matrix said. It's how I've met someone whose wife could bend spoons. I've seen the evidence, like they do in Matrix, just bend the spoons. I know someone whose son can actually levitate things and do stuff. Sri Baba used to turn rocks into gold because he didn't see it as a rock. He would see it as gold. This was what in Alberto Villoldo, shaman over in South America, said, that one of his mentors once changed into a bird and started flying. And she said, well, the difference is between, she goes, how did you do it? He said, because the bird and I are one and the same. I'm no different to the bird's no different to me. And for those who are in the Bhagavad Gita training, which I've been doing, would know that we explored that the other week, about the whole, the true sage sees a dog, a cat, an ant, a squirrel, an arsehole, a human as all one and the same. The true sage knows that but I know that I am Bill Gates is me, I am Hillary Clinton, I am all these people, I am Gandhi, I am Jesus, I am Donald Trump, I'm Joe Biden, I'm all these people. Now, of course, our human side, our delusional side, revulses at that and says, I don't have any, I'm not Bill Gates. He does this, this, and this, because we're disowning that part of ourselves. The natural tendency is to disown our darkness with consciousness. We don't like to own our darkness. We don't like to admit that we are a crazy, bipolar, narcissistic, vile, disgusting human being who thinks horrific thoughts about other people and wishes that they were dead and then tries to pretend that we didn't. And we smile when we see them and do shit like that. We like to pretend we're not really this person who wants to get an insane amount of wealth and then do bad shit with it to people to make ourselves feel good. And we create a narcissistic delusion about ourselves to believe that we're something different to that. But the true sage knows they're all of those things. And because they know it, they don't hide their darkness. They own all of it. And because they can own all of it, they're in mastery of it. They master their thoughts. They can dissolve it. Because at the same time, they can also master their good sides. They see even their good sides that they're doing is also part of the delusion. For all they know, they could be fucking the whole matrix up. For example, how many times have you rescued someone, thought you were doing them good, and actually realized that you actually fucked up their life more because you stopped them from growing? Maybe you stopped someone from having a karmic realization that they would have had. By you, for example, and I learned this one myself. Yes, I think I've been a good father, but I've also been a bad father. I mean, my giving kids my freedom, that's been possibly a good side. And at the same time, there's been a not so good side by us being so generous with our kids and giving them so kind of opportunity. In a way, we've stopped them from growing. So ultimately, I'm not really a good father or a bad father. I'm not really a good partner or a bad partner. It all depends on how we see it. And this is what consciousness is all about. We stop the labels which we used to have. And Goddard makes this really, really clear. He says, you must turn from the objective appearance of things to become the subjective appearance in what you actually believe, so to speak. So if your consciousness is the only reality, it's the only substance. And this is what I love here is what he says here. I'm just going from extracts from the book, but he says the rich man, the poor man, the beggar man, the thief, the crazy woman, the crazy man, the beautiful woman, the beautiful angel, the evil angel are not different lines, but merely different arrangements of the same mind in the same way that a piece of steel will magnetized may not differ in substance from its demagnetized state, but the order is different, so it does different things. And this is what they found in science. For example, when you look at something that seems to be solid, it actually particles. It's just expressing itself in that form. Jesus was able to see a wall as just a series of particles that weren't actually solid, but they were liquid waveform, and therefore could walk through them. Many yogis have walked successfully through walls because they don't see them as walls. In the same way that the martial artist who can break the piece of board because they don't see it as a board, they just see it as consciousness and they can just break it. It's like in our mind where we can see things that others might see as an obstacle. We don't see it as an obstacle at all because we don't see it. One person sees that they've only got $100,000 in the bank and therefore they think we've only got 6 months, we're going to run out of money. Another person sees, okay, wow, I've got 100,000 in the bank. I've got everything that I need right now. Things can only get better. Both parties are right, and both will experience the same reality. It's just one's reality is probably going to be a little bit easier to experience than the other one. And it just comes down to which one do you prefer? Which lie do you prefer to believe? Because they're both lies. They're both truths and they're both lies. Where if you believe that you've only got $100,000 and you're going to run out of money in 6 months, it's probably the biggest sort of bullshit ever, because in the next month, you could suddenly get a new job. You may suddenly get more money coming in. You may suddenly get better from the sickness and stop you working. Someone may just give you some money. You may actually run out of money within 2 months, not 6 months. So you don't know. It's just your belief. Equally, believing that everything will sort out when you got your 100,000 things can only get better, that's a lie too. It may get miles better than you think. It may actually get a whole lot worse. You don't know. But the more you believe something, it will manifest in its reality. So it says here that health, wealth, beauty, and genius are not created. They manifest the body arrangement of your mind or your concept of yourself. I can remember, for example, I look at myself with pictures 6 years ago and compared to now, and I actually look younger now, and everyone's been telling me that. I noticed that when I've had biological aging tests, I've actually got younger and younger. And those of you who know me know I've been saying this for years, that every year goes by, I get younger and younger. According to this now, I'm something like 20 years younger biomechanically than I actually am physically. I expect to keep getting younger. And so it's all a state of belief and consciousness. The third one is your assumptions about yourself. So dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part for fulfillment. The scriptures say in Romans, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So in other words, all transformation happens because you have this hunger to be transformed. So what I want you to do now is I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, just as a bit of a intermittent break, just to write down in the next 2 minutes assumptions you got about yourself. Good or whatever you label, good or bad, just write them down. And if you think, oh, I'm ugly or I'm old, just whatever you think, and good and bad, and notice them, because this is going to give you the chance to transform. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes and come back. Okay. So just type in the chat while I continue on this, and just what you noticed, any particular assumptions about yourself you noticed, but you've already decided that you're going to transform, but you're going to start to disengage from, whatever it happened to be. And one of the interesting things was I did a bit of a test for myself with my homeopath some weeks ago, when here's a machine that measures all your organs, and it showed, for example, that I was in need of 3 flower essences. And I remember what Raymond Grace said, and I said, before you give me the homeopath, I want to do something. So I got my bobber and I proceeded to infuse myself with the flower essences over the next 20 seconds, and I got him to retest me on the machine. The moment I did that, the machine instantly showed I didn't need the flower essences anymore. Now, it was so interesting because I had people telling me that, you know, you still got to get the physical, and that was a certain level of evolution, but I started to realize that I actually didn't. I even did one, and I'll tell you this, it's a bit crazy, but one of the things I did with him 2 days ago when I saw him, I said, I want you to test something with me. So I got him to test my testosterone on the machine, which showed a pretty good level. And then I did various things around my thoughts. And we tested everything from different things, thinking about different women, different partners, everything from Viagra, different herbs. And it was incredible to see the machine change, literally, depending on what I was thinking. And even he was shaking his head going, this is mind-blowing, you know, and I was saying, yeah, as we were testing different things. And I was starting to realize that, for example, I said, and I got him to test me on a specific pharmaceutical drug. And I said, this is one I've always been told never to take. So I want you to test me on the pharmaceutical. And at first it showed like, I then changed my thinking about it, doing what Raymond Grace taught with the power of energy, where you could transform by energy. And then I got them to retest me, and it showed that the actual pharmaceutical would be beneficial for me and it would actually help me. And then what happened was we tested I would feel after I'd finished the pharmaceutical. I felt better, and it showed that I'd have a brief period of rolling back. But then I tested changing my thoughts about that again, and it went up again. And we're actually doing this, watching it in the machine and seeing the tangible evidence as we were doing this. It was really profound. And it just about made me realize that really there's nothing that we can't do by our thoughts and intentions. And I even was starting to think to myself things like, and a very good example that I gave was when the testosterone, I said, just for a bit of fun, let's just see what happens. So I imagined having some, I haven't ever taken it before, but I just imagined taking a pharmaceutical Viagra. I said, let's just see what it shows up. And my testosterone shot right up. And it was like, this is just profound. So in other words, I started to realize that your assumption about what you are, who you're taking, what you're doing, it's all about that belief system. And it just made me go, goodness me, what is it I really believe about my financial situation? What is it I believe about all kinds of stuff? And I just started to think to myself, gosh, how much have I limited myself? So your assumptions about yourself, as you said here, renewing the mind. So before you can change your circumstances, you actually start to change yourself and let it become your dominant feeling. And you first got to believe, as it says in Hebrews in the Bible, that God is. In other words, that it's already happened, that it's already here now. If you believe that something is still to come, it will never actually manifest, because your subconscious does not actually understand the difference because future does not exist. Everything is a now. I am says I am the now. So if your I am is at some stage, I'm going to have this. The I am only hears one thing. I don't have this. Because the subconscious is pure feminine energy. And those of you who are feminine women here, or females, and you've operated in your feminine, you know, a man might say something to you. Like a classic example, where is that I remembered once saying to a girl, you know, and it was actually perfectly innocent. I was very young at the time, and I just said something to her like, you know, because at the time I remember saying to her, it's really good you're not too skinny. And I meant it, because I didn't really go for girls who are too skinny. What do you think she heard? Are you saying that I'm fat? Of course I was like, no. But all she heard was, you're fat. And this is how the unconscious, it just hears what you're saying. So if you're saying, I'd like to be financially free, your subconscious hears, okay, I'm not. That's what it hears. So the only possible way you can truly be financially free is to actually believe that you already are. Now, the linear mind might say, well, hang on a sec, there's this, and this, but you actually are. The question is today, do you have absolutely enough money to meet your expenses today? If the answer is yes, like right now, in the bank right now, do you have enough money to meet your expenses today? Easily. Even possibly tomorrow. Yeah, and the answer is you're financially free. Tomorrow, for all you know, you could wake up and get an inheritance. So you actually are financially free already. That would be how one person sees himself. That's how Jesus saw himself. That's how the yogis saw himself. I did an experiment in my life once. I can remember going through a period when I worked my absolute friggin' ass off to bring in money. And I equally went through a period of my life when I literally did fuck all and just kept saying, I know it will come to me. I tried both things. Actual truth was neither of them really made much difference. I tended to get the same result no matter which one I did. And I laugh when I look back at the whole thing and go, well, it's here we are. It says in Psalm 127, exactly that. There's a clue given in the scriptures about this reality and about how much we delude ourselves into believing things which just plain aren't true at all. So Psalm 127, which is probably one of my favorite, oh, look, I have so many favorite scriptures. So when I say favorite, I'm being in feminine energy. Right now in this current moment, it's my favorite. And Grace knows what I mean. Grace would tell me one day, that's my favorite house. And the next day she'd see another one say, that's actually my favorite house. And it just did my head in till I understood this. So accept the Lord. And if you see the Lord as the I am, the higher mind, unless the I am build the house, they labor in vain that build that and try to build it externally and separately. Unless the I am is building the house, unless the I am is building the business, unless the I am is building your relationship, unless the I am is watching the city, watching your life, watching the city of your soul. The watchmen, the outside things that you do, the psychologists, the doctors, the healers, are doing it in complete and utter vain. It is frivolous, is probably a better word than vain, and completely pointless for you to rise up early, to sit up late, which is really what the I Ching was saying at the beginning, wasn't it? About watching that for restrictive regulations and not overdoing it. To sit up late, to eat the bread of sorrows, to stress yourself, worrying about the great reset, worrying about this, worrying about will I have enough money in 3 months, worrying if I have enough money in 6 months. For so he gives his beloved, in other words, the I am gives our beloved, and if you read the book of the Song of Songs in the scripture, it says, my soul is my beloved. My soul, my feminine, my heart is my beloved. Lo, children are a heritage of the reward, Lord, of the I am. In other words, children or offspring or fruit or manifestations in the physical realm. So it's all written in here. So dare to believe in the power and reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part relative to your fulfillment. So it says you must be conscious of being healthy if you know what health is. I've never been as healthy as I feel right now, and it's literally because I honestly see myself as healthy. Before, I used to believe I used to believe the delusion that I had an overly sensitive constitution, but I couldn't do certain things, that if I did this would happen to me. And even in December, when I discovered that I had a little bit excess belly fat, I did everything. I went out, I did all kinds of exercises, I did this, I went on restrictive diets, and it helped a little bit, but not a lot. And then after having gone through that and increasing my metabolism, I decided a month ago, look, it's clearly the stomach is the center of the Tantien, or the center of my consciousness. It says that in the scripture. So therefore, it's just my beliefs and self-worth. So I want to love myself a bit more and just assume that I can eat what I want and I want to keep on in perfect health. And the funny thing is, I've been ahead, I've gone back, I've eaten pizza, I had bread most days, I had chocolate yesterday, chips, all that kind of stuff. And I've actually noticed that my stomach hasn't really got any bigger or smaller than it was previously. The only thing I noticed is just not to be in excess. So if I've eaten a lot one day, I might choose to just have water at night and give my body a break. So it's a whole profound thing that you realize the power of what this is saying. And so I'm going quite deep today, and I'm hoping people will get what I'm saying here today. But Goddard says this, he said, it's the height of folly to expect the incarnation of a greater concept of self to come by natural evolutionary process. In other words, he says, what a load of absolute fucking bullshit to believe that you inevitably will grow by evolutionary process. In other words, yeah, whatever. It's like saying humans are evolving, getting better. As I said to someone, well, I don't really think so. I think that some humans are getting better and some are getting worse. You can see that because 55 years ago, people were being sent off to war to kill innocent Asian people just because the US didn't really like them and then told that they were bad citizens if they didn't. 60 years ago in Mississippi, and places like that, if you sat in a cafe with a coloured person, you'd be arrested or segregated or cancelled. 70 years ago, Aboriginals were being basically arrested for all kinds of things and treated as second-class citizenship. 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to vote because they decided they were too stupid. And then the new evolved version of us spent the last 3 years basically trying to shame people because they didn't want to take an experimental vaccine, while at the same time, they were saying you can go and get pre-puberty hormone injections at 8 years of age. If you decide you wake up and want to identify as a woman and play sport, you can do so. So this tells you that by and large, we don't really evolve by that. We evolve through conscious intention. And I honestly believe the only thing that's going to possibly evolve our planet is the shift in intention and a greater awareness of the conscious intention of individuals and shamans. And history shows that, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, that generally when humanity goes very dark, the only thing that changes it is basically the one appears and comes in some form, like Krishna, like Christ, like Yeshua, like Buddha, like someone comes to bring people back to consciousness and back to the I am to evolve and transform society again, so that people start to improve their behavior again. And the scriptures seem to imply that a number of I ams would turn up in the change and evolution of the ascension to the fifth dimension, or whatever we want to call it. So the question is, it says, that which requires a state of consciousness can only change if we change our state of consciousness. In other words, we have to change our assumption about ourselves today. For example, if you truly talk about financial freedom, you must change the assumption about yourself that says, I'm not financially free, because your unconscious only hears that. You could go to 50 seminars, you could pay $58,000 a week to a mentor, you could sit down with Richard Branson, you could sit down with Bill Gates and Clinton and George Soros and ignore their labels about dark and learn their financial side, and you still would have issues come if you don't actually believe that you're financially independent already and that you know that you already are. So that's the starting point. If you don't see yourself as already healthy today, you can go, all that will happen is you'll make doctors rich and homeopaths rich and chiros rich, as I did, because basically you believe that you're not. So your imagination is the instrument whereby you redeem yourself from sickness, slavery, and poverty, because imagination is the only redemptive power of the universe. So the changes which take place in your life, in your changed consciousness, because you change the way you see yourself, always appear to the unenlightened to be the result of out of course, chances, or coincidence, not because you change your thinking. You just had good luck or something like that. So there's no escape for you except by a radical psychological transformation of yourself and the assumption of the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Otherwise, you will stay in your darkness. So everything changes or depends on your attitude towards yourself. If you actually honestly believe that you're fat, you can literally starve yourself and not eat much, and you will somehow, your body will find a way to make yourself fat. If you believe you're slim, that you're good, that you look good, that your body naturally gets good, you can eat what you want and you'll still look fine. Now, that's within reason, because at the same time, you can eat what you want, but at some stage, the law of balance will make you desire it. But by and large, that is the truth. And I remember reading once about a woman, because even when I say that, she was 77, in perfect health, magnificent body, very, very fit. Her secret, she said, I eat what I like, I enjoy life, and what I like is most of the time I just eat at McDonald's 3 times a day, which I'm sure William would have great joy to hear. But basically, literally ate McDonald's 3 times a day most days. And really, her health was perfectly good because she actually believed that it would bring her joy, and because she liked the food, it would make her feel better. So the man who's not prepared for the conscious plunge in the assumption of the wish fulfilled in the faith is not yet ready to live by the law of assumption. So in conclusion, he says, to reach a higher level of being and become a new person or a new individual in a new state of reality, you must change or assume a higher and different concept of who you are. So if I don't see myself as a successful trader today, I never will be. If I see myself as a really poor trader or as not this or not that, the truth is we're all financially free. If we're sitting on this webinar right now, listening to this, no matter what illusion of time we happen to be in, past, present, or future illusion, but if you're able to comfortably meet your expenses, eat whatever you want, have a nice house, you're already ahead of most of the world, you're already financially free, and you're already fine. If by and large you can walk, you can sit, you can do stuff, you're already healthy. And on the odds of statistics anyway, you know, and you could sit there and find something. If I really wanted to sit there and go over and over, I can definitely find something in my body. If I really want to look hard enough, I can find it. Equally, if I want to look hard enough, I can find good things as well. So you remain as you are if you do not believe you are this new person. And it's only the assumption of the feeling of the wish that makes the future dream a fact. So, as a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be. That was James Allen. And Allen just simply quoted from the book of Proverbs from Solomon. And Raymond Grace often quotes this one. As a man thinks in his heart, that's who he is. So the final one is the power of focused attention I'm going to focus on today. So in chapters 5 and 6, as he talks about this, the truth that set you free, as he says here. So something that Neville Goddard actually quotes, he said his wife once told him about a voice which he heard the voice of God speak really clearly within her one day. And all it said to her was, you no longer spend your thoughts, times, and money. Everything in life must be an investment. So anything that you're doing, whatever you spend your money on is an investment. To invest is to lay out for a purpose for which you're going to get some kind of profit and transforming your life and transforming your moment and having meaning in what you're doing. He says you're only limited by your uncontrolled imagination and lack of attention to the feeling of your wish fulfilled. In other words, the more distracted that you are from your magnificence, the more likely you are to manifest confusion in your life. So, and things like that. So you concentrate your attention, but you're already a particular person that you see yourself to actually be. So he says attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. So you want to really narrow. In the mystery schools, one of the things that they would often get people doing, and some of you have done this exercise, you would actually focus your attention right within your third eye and your imagination. So you would actually focus it. I'm actually going to do this. I've been given a new code by Yvonne, which I'm sure will make Grace very excited, which I haven't got up here, but I'm going to go and, before we finish, I'm going to put it up here and just use it. Whatever you know you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and until that feeling fills the mind completely. And that's why we focus on codes, because the codes enter our pineal gland and they help our attention focus. That's all it is. The truth is, I know I'm already the code. I used to focus on the code. Now I know I'm already the code. I see it, I infuse it, and I know I am the code. I am the code. And therefore, because I am the code, I'll manifest everything that it gives me. The power of attention, the great secret of success, and things like that. So forgetting those things that are behind, you press towards your mind of fulfilling the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And Paul says you forget what lies behind and you move forward towards the prize. That's how many sports stars become successful. So he says night after night, just before you drift off to sleep, if you want to do something a bit different, focus your attention on the activities of the day in reverse order. Go from the last thing you did, going back in bed, and go backwards in time. And if you can do this every day, eventually the muscle of your attention will actually improve and you'll become more powerful in what you're doing. So he says, when you attain control of the internal direction of your intention, you will literally walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled on a foundation more solid even than anything else on earth. So Raymond Grace puts it really well. He says, intention is all that I'm doing. That's what he said. If you had to summarize everything that Raymond does, it's intention. He said, I just assume I can do it and I'll just give it a shot. So you can transform energy by everything that you're doing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go get the code. Just give me 1 minute, everyone. And we're going to do this code exercise. So just give me a minute to get the code. Okay, everyone. Sorry about that. I just was having to find the code. That was all. So just give me a sec. I'm going to just find gone through them. So I'm just going to put the code up now, and we're going to do a really good manifestation to finish off. I'm just going to show everyone now the codes. I know the one I'm going to use, but I just want to see if there's any of these codes that jump out at you, Grace, or Christine about. So they're the ones. Any of those ones jump out at you? Just quick, instant sense.
The green one.
Green one. Yeah, interesting. Yes.
Yeah, that's what jumped out at me as well. The green one.
There you go. So that's the one to use. So we'll do that. So just let me get it up. Yeah, interesting. Aidan said that the pink one, which is actually, yeah, that was my sense to use 2 codes today. And the pink one was the other one I wanted to do. So there you go, Aidan. You and I have the same evolved mind. So what we'll do is put the codes up. Kevin inside here. Okay, so let's start with this one first. So what we're going to do is focus. I'm going to turn off my video so I don't interrupt with the focus. What I want you to do is to focus on this code, on the center of the code. What you do is put all your mental energy in the center of your head and just focus right on the center, that little red dot in the middle. Green is the color of the heart chakra. So just get a sense of this code coming in, expanding your heart, growing yourself, expanding you, the universe beyond universe. I'm not even going to make the commands. All I'm going to do is just the commands of that we always do. We command the code to infuse through all your chakras. Just get a sense it's already done, that the commands have been already made. And just feel it in every chakra going right through every part of your being. And just feel your whole consciousness expanded exponentially. So you are so in your wholest of light body, but you're actually expanding beyond yourself into the universe. And everything is incorporated, every citizen, every being, every individual, every energy, all incorporated into this. And just do it with a knowing and a thankfulness that you already are everything who you desire. You already are. You already are all wealth, all health, all abundance. You have that perfect soulmate partner already, because that partner exists within you. So what you're manifesting outside of yourself is already a perfect reflection of what you're needing right now. That's it. Just feel it going in. Because all I'm doing is just feeling it and seeing it expand in every part of your being to manifest everything that you're looking in your heart chakra. And removing any blocks, anything of that kind that's interfering. Let this code transform your mind. And just feel every manifestation in this code. Now, and let's finish it off by this one. This is a special power manifestation code, and I'll tell you what this one is afterwards. Just feel it, kind of putting the finishing touches to all your manifestations, everything, your dreams around everything, around church, around work, career, finances, relationships, health, sexual energy, governments, everything. Just feel this completely vibrating through your whole auric field, third eye, every part of your being. Notice it's got a very strong sexual energy, this code as well. It's really awakening the tantric sexual energy. And that's, as Napoleon Hill says in Think and Grow Rich, the creative energy for wealth, for everything in your life. So it's really magnifying. So if you're noticing a heightened sense of sexual energy building in you, that's actually that's normal. Because that's the creative force of the whole universe. It's taught that Shakti and Shiva merge together through sacred sexual union to form the universe. That's what's taught in the Hindu teaching. So that's keeping in mind all that's happening in you, that merging of the sexual energy of the masculine and feminine merging together. That's actually what it really is. That's what creates. So your inner masculine and your inner feminine merge together and become one and coexist in a perfect oneness together. Okay, so I want you to take a glass of water now and sip it, knowing that the water is infused with all of these codes and the energies of this code to integrate it into the physical. Make sure you drink some water tonight before you go to bed, because if you do, the water will manifest, will help fast track all the manifestations that you're putting in place today. So just you drink that water before you go to bed, and that's what it's doing. It will fast track it, and we'll be hearing great stories of miracles this week or in the next coming days. And just what I'd like you to do now is take your water, reflect, and I would love Grace or Christine or whatever willing to come on the mic and just share, and anyone who else wants to share on the mic or whatever, or just type in the text chat.
Well, I'm feeling a lot of warmth on my right hand.
Yeah.
Especially when that code came through. Yeah, just the warmth of my hands. Interesting.
See,
and also opening up in my heart chakra as well.
Yeah, you see, that was Yvonne gave me 3 codes, but the 4th one she gave me was actually my own personal one for my birthday, and that was the pink one, which was a power manifestation code. And I actually felt to share that one as well with the group. So it's interesting that Aiden got that, but it's a very powerful manifestation code, the pink one.
I mean, that was really blinding, to be honest, that pink one.
Yeah, no, Yvonne especially did that one for me to manifest a whole heap of stuff for me. That's why it's a very powerful sexually infused code. You probably noticed it.
Well, it's the 5th of the 5th.
Correct.
Yeah.
I turned 55 on the 5th of the 5th, and 5
Yeah.
is about change and creative energy and breaking the status quo and new beginnings. So
A new beginning, all right. Well, that was good.
yeah,
So we can use the green one anytime.
absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Well, what's the other code? What was the other ones for?
Oh, manifestation, they're in a sequence.
Ah,
Use them.
excellent.
I've given you a message privately, Grace, so you can find where to find them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was really powerful, Warren. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
When the green one came out, it just sort of like it blew me away. Totally blew me away. I was sort of like crying, and I can't describe exactly how it felt, but it was really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And then when the pink one came on, it was sort of like, wow. And then it was sort of like everything calmed down. But the actual pink code itself was bouncing. They were both bouncing around, but the pink one was inside it was bouncing around incredibly.
Yeah.
And then when you were talking about the masculine and feminine energy, it's sort of my realization was sort of like, I've known it, but it was sort of like another aha moment. But you're talking about the masculine and feminine, and then you would be previously been talking about the conscious and subconscious, and that whole thing is just creation, really.
Yeah.
So that whether you're talking about one or the other, it sort of all comes together, and it is creation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed teaching today. I actually felt what I was teaching. I always know when something's flowing because I'm learning lessons as I'm teaching. So I was actually learning myself today as I was teaching. I'm like, wow, there's so much that we limit ourselves, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was really powerful. Thanks very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's good. It's a good foundation.
Yeah. No, it was exciting. I enjoyed it. Anyone else? Let me think. And while we're doing it as well, for those who would like to tithe and support the work, I mean, some of you do already, but this is a great opportunity to support, and we use the money, of course, to help. One of the manifestations I put, and I'll share this in the pink manifestation, is I had a meeting this week actually with a guy who runs the Amongst Men Dance and Creative Arts. And the original vision of City Awakening was always about creative arts and taking the message of awakening to the world. And I realized this week, I said to him, the hunger which I have to see this work expand and bring every city of the earth to awaken is so deep in me. At times, I think it's been so deep in my heart. I've just felt this almost grief and sorrow about that. And today, what this has made me realize is, it's the awakening is already happening, and it's expanding the City Awakening to awaken every city of the earth and bring creative arts and new ways of consciousness and bringing this teaching into the whole earth. So the more we can fund this and have the funds flow in, the more we can grow this work. And one of the things that's one of our desires, or one of the things that we see, is I see this like center, like in Perth to start off with, where we do music, creative arts, a drop-in center. We have like online centers that's happening. We have it in every city eventually, physically as well as energetically. And I've been seeing this happening for some time. So so today I've just decided to just share that openly and encourage anyone who comes regularly to type, those who already are, that's great. Those who are not, I encourage you to give something, even if it's small, whatever, just something. But because as you tithe, you're not just doing it to help expand the work, but you're doing it for your own expansion. Even yesterday, for example, I noticed that if I go somewhere and get blessed from it, like watching the street performer, but I watched and learned some things, I went and gave a generous donation. So by doing it, it's actually an investment to expand your own wealth. And it says in the sacred scriptures, and Catherine Ponder in her Dynamic Laws of Prosperity says, test the I am. See what happens as you tithe. Notice how much your wealth will expand as you do it. So that's just what I felt to share today. And most of I don't normally share like that directly on this topic, but I really felt to share that today. But those of you who are desiring a greater manifestation, then tithe and be generous with the work, so the work can expand. And just type in your lesson, or if you don't have anything, even just type your greatest lesson today.
I just had some input on the pink code.
Yep.
I could quite clearly see a broad cross in that code. It was both pink and red. It was a very much for me. It was very much a sword and shield sort of energy, but it didn't relate to aggression. It was, to me, it seemed to be more about resoluteness.
Yeah, right. That's good.
Standing firm.
I like that.
Like that.
I don't know. People will draw different things out of these codes, but that's what it produced for me.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Okay. Well, let's see. Anyone else got anything? I've finished, Grace.
Thank you very much. It's certainly a time of reflection, introspection, isn't it? And be light with it. Enjoy life and have fun.
Couldn't agree more. Just have fun. That's what it's interesting, isn't it, Grace, that Solomon says in the book of Ecclesiastes, and it was the last book he ever wrote. Many say the wisest man on earth, after trying everything else. And he said, my conclusion is fear God, love life, enjoy your partner, enjoy your eating, enjoy your work, and just live simply. And I was chuckling to myself, and you would notice how in the last couple of weeks, I've had a major change in my life. I've sold off a lot of my shares in one company. I'm reducing in another one, and getting more into a role. I'm actually going to be doing more work, and I feel very excited about it. Like even yesterday, this was kind of mind blowing for me. The company I've sold off a lot of my shares. I said to my business partner, if you want to contract me back into work for you, sometimes I'll do it, like in a job. So she's actually going to be doing it with me with some particular things. And I was chuckling to myself, like, here I've gone full circle, you know. It's because I've done business and I enjoy it. And I'm still a shareholder. I actually do like working and working under someone and being told what to do. So I've decided, well, as well as being an authority, running my own work, and really what drives me is to run the church, for example, with you. This is the thing I'm really interested in, responsibility. But then and then as an owner in companies, giving guidance for growth, but then I also want to have a role I'm actually doing working as well, like in a job as well. And it's kind of very exciting for me to own that side. So it's going back and bringing everything into balance. Funny, isn't it?
It's hilarious. No, it's good. It's all about finding our path, isn't it? And the only one that can find it is us.
Absolutely.
No, it's good.
Well, thank you everyone for your support. I do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next time.
And you get your manifestations, guys, make sure you give generously. That's my comment. If you get a financial manifestation and you know it needs, then give generously. Okay, see you later, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.